Hantanam Namo Sittanam Namo Ayariyanam Namo Uvajayanam Namo Loye Sauvasaham. Mangalam Bhagavan Viro Mangalam Gautamo Gani Mangalam Kunda Kundadyo Jaina Dharmostu Mangalam Sarva Mangala Mangalyam Sarva Kalyanakarakam Pradhanam Sarva Dharmanam Jainam Jaitu Shashanam Jainam Jaitu Shashanam Jainam Jaitu Shashanam. So I had given one homework last week on the 4 exposition Char Anuyog, one example on Char Anuyog, and some of you have submitted also, but I want all of you to attempt that example, and so I'm not discussing it today. I'll discuss it in the next week, but before that, everyone should submit one example wherein you are showing what it is from each kind of exposition, and for any problem, practical problem, you can take any one, and you should send me by voice message on my personal chat, and then I'll be discussing it in the next class. Today we are going to begin lesson number 7, non-violence, a commentary. This is written by somebody based on Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev's Purshat Siddhi Upay. So I guess Dr. Bharilji only have written this article, but it is based on Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev's Purshat Siddhi Upay. So for the introduction, Acharya Amrit Chandra's introduction is given here. So after Kunkund Acharya Dev, Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev is second only to him in the galaxy of spiritual saints. So we had many saints in the sequence, starting from Kunkund Acharya Dev. He is considered to be the one who has started this Adhyatam Dhara, or about the soul science. He is being credited for that, and Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev has written 3 commentaries on the main 5 texts written by Kunkund Acharya Dev, Panch Parmagam. Out of 5 Parmagams, 3 Parmagams commentary has been written by Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev, and Kunkund Acharya Dev was in the 1st century of this common era. Then Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev was in the 12th century of this era. It is a matter of regret that we do not know much about this great Acharya of about the 12th century, except whatever is known from his writing. So as is common with all the acharyas, they don't write anything on their personal life, who were their parents, where they were born, what was his profession, and how he uh, adapted to monkhood, and what was the inspiration behind it. We don't know anything about these acharyas, not only this acharya, but any other acharyas also. So since their main purpose was to reproduce passionlessness in them, so they never thought on this line of getting famous or getting powerful or making money out of it, nothing like that. So they didn't write anything about them personally. So what we know is from the text, somewhere in the text they have written something about themselves, and that is what all we know about them. Always unconcerned with fame and other worldly aspiration, Acharya Amrit Chandra, after writing great treatise, says, after writing great commentaries, he says, words were formed with letters, sentences with words, and sentences gave rise to this holy scripture. I have done nothing. So this was from Samaisar, in the commentary of Samaisarji Granth, and the same feeling has been expressed in Tatvarth Sar. Pandit Asadarji has called him Thakur, which shows that he must have been connected with some high Kshatriya family. So all our Tirthankar belong to the Kshatriya family, and some of the Acharyas also belong to Kshatriya family, and Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev was one of them. He has complete mastery over Sanskrit language. Both in his prose and poetry, language flows according to feelings and is simple, easily comprehensible, and sweet. So if you consider the Kalash that has been written in Samaisar, all are, you can say, it directly connects you to your soul. It is written in such a manner that if you just go through those verses, then it connects you to your soul. Such is the language, such is the flow of the language, I would say. He was always engrossed in spiritual thinking. Consequently, all his creations are full of spiritualism of a high order. So by spiritualism, we mean adhyatam. So all his creations were full of adhyatam. So adhyatam is adi plus atam. Adi means adhikar, atam means soul. So one which deals with the soul science is adhyatam. All his works are in Sanskrit. So Kunkunacharya wrote everything in Prakrit because that was the language prevailing at that point of time. But when Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev came in the 12th century, then the language that was being used in those days was Sanskrit. So all his works are in Sanskrit. He wrote prose and poetry both. Among his prose writing are his commentaries on the great works of Kunkun, Samaisar Tika known as Atmakhyati, Pravachansar Tika known as Tatparya Dipika or Tatparya Vritti. Panchastikai Tika known as Samay Vyakhya. So these three were from Kunkundacharya Dev's book, scriptures that were written by Kunkundacharya Dev, and Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev had done commentary on this. Then Tattvats are poetic translation of prose sutras of Acharya Umaswamy. So Tattvat Sutra, commentary on Tattvat Sutra in poetic form is known as Tattvat Sar, and it is written by Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev. Then next is Pursat Siddhi Upay, an original work. Original work means it is not a commentary of any other work. It is his own creation, an original work on the life of a householder. The nature of violence and non-violence has been very clearly depicted in this work. The present essay is based on Pursat Siddhi Upay. So this was all about the introduction of Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev. We know very little about his personal life, but from the commentaries that we have seen, and also both, he was good in both prose and poems, and those are really absolutely, you can say, gem, because it takes directly to the self-realization of your soul. So these were very good. And of course, Pursat Siddhi Upay is a Charnaniyog Granth, and it deals with what are the duties of a householder, and basically it deals with the 12 vows that a householder undertake when he reaches the 5th stage of spiritual development. So this article is based on this Pursat Siddhi Upay, a very good scripture, and it is in your syllabus, it is fully in your syllabus. So maybe in the 7th and 8th sem, you will have this Pursat Siddhi Upay. Partly you will be having in 7th sem, and the balance part will be in the 8th sem. So this is also one of the, so some of the good scriptures that has been included in your syllabus is, one is Moksha Marg Prakashak, then we have this Pursat Siddhi Upay, then we have Tattvat Sutra, Samay Sar. Of course, it is not the full Samay Sar, but first two adhikars, which are very crucial and very important in that particular granth. And then we have Komat Sar, Jeev Kand, and Pariksha Mukh, and some other scriptures which has been written by Acharyas, and we will be studying those granth in the year 3 to 5. So last 3 years we will be studying the scriptures, and before that, this is basically building up your fundamentals. So we have this Vitrag Vigyan 1, 2, 3. Before that, we had Balbodh 1, 2, 3, and then we will have Tattvagyan 1 and 2, and that is how these are all going to be the part of your basic fundamentals, and then we will move on to this original scriptures written by acharyas and other scholars. So this article is on non-violence, a commentary. So in Jainism, we have 3 A's which are very famous. So this non-violence is ahimsa, it is one of them. Then second one is anekant, and then the third one is aparigraha. So 3 A's: ahimsa, anekant, and aparigraha. So we'll be studying this about.
So what does anekant mean?
Anekant means multifaceted reality. Anekant means substance, dravya. So what is the nature of our substance? That is anekant. And this is again a principle that also we'll be studying, anekant. And then ahimsa, of course, we are touching it today. And then aparigraha. Parigraha is possession, and aparigraha is either not keep any parigraha or very minimum. So if you are a monk, then not a single parigraha you are supposed to keep with you. But if you are a householder, then you can have limited parigraha with you, and then rest you can renounce. So non-violence is the greatest religion. Ahimsa parmo dharma. So this is a very common statement for the Jains. You would have seen that it is written everywhere in any of the Jain functions, Jain, we can say, discourse or any convocation about Jain. So this is always, you will find a poster about this statement that ahimsa parmo dharma. That means ahimsa means non-violence. Non-violence is the greatest religion. Param is greatest, and dharma is religion. So non-violence is the greatest religion is a common saying of the age. So common saying, अहिंसा को परम दोष करने वाली यह सुक्ति आज बहुत प्रचलित है. So it is very famous right now. It is an established truth that non-violence is the greatest religion. So that it is an established truth. There is nothing that we need to prove it. And as we study this article today, you will also have an idea about this truth that non-violence is the greatest religion. But the question is what non-violence is. Whenever there is a talk of violence and non-violence, we always think of killing or torturing or saving living beings. So we always think of killing or torturing living beings or saving living beings, thus relating violence and non-violence to others only. So this is the main point. Whatever meanings that are right now prevalent in our society of violence and non-violence, we always think or we always think in this line that it is about somebody else killing or torturing or saving others only. So violence is hinsa and non-violence is ahimsa. Most people believe that ahimsa, so actually it is ahimsa N, but it is written as M, ahimsa. But if you see the Hindi version, it is ahimsa. AHINSA. Most people believe that ahimsa, non-violence, is not only killing or harming others. So most people believe that ahimsa means to kill somebody or to harm somebody or torture somebody. Very few people understand that these are also related to the self. So it is not about killing others, but it is also about something related to the self means it also not killing exactly. The word is used is what, I'm not getting the right word. So I'll just see in Hindi. दूसरों की हिंसा मत करो, बस यही अहिंसा है, ऐसा ही सर्वाधिक विश्वास है। अपनी भी हिंसा होती है, इस तरफ बहुत कम लोगों का ध्यान जाता है। So it is not violence of others only. The pure sentiment of the soul is being hit by this violence. So it not only it affects the others, but it is also affecting ourselves also. So very few people understand that these are also related to the self. Even those regard violence of the self, they think it is about suicide by poisoning, suicide by jumping from a terrace of the building. So they relate this violence with suicide. Nobody tries to understand the innermost meaning of these two. Of these two means violence and non-violence. So nobody knows about it, and nobody tries to understand the innermost meaning of these two. Very few people know that rise of attachment and aversion. Attachment is rag and aversion is dvesh. In the inner self is also violence. तो राग द्वेष की उत्पत्ति हिंसा है, और राग द्वेष की उत्पत्ति नहीं होना ही अहिंसा है. This is the definition given by Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev in Pursat Siddhi Upay, verse number 44. It is on account of this that Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev has given importance to the inner sight. Inner sight means inner belief, while giving definitions of violence and non-violence. Apradurбhava khallu ragadinam bhavyata hinseti teshamevotpatti hinseti jinagamasya sanक्षेप. अप्रादुर्भाव means प्रकट न होना. अप्रादुर्भाव is प्रकट न होना. खल्लु is निश्चय से. रागादीना means राग, द्वेष आदि. भवत्य हिंसेति, भवत्य इज है, और हिंसेति मतलब यही अहिंसा है. तेषामेवोत्पत्ति, रागादि भावों का उत्पन्न होना, उन रागादि भावों का उत्पन्न होना. हिंसेति, हिंसा है। जिनागमस्य संक्षेप, जैन सिद्धांत का सार है। सो राग, द्वेष, मोह आदि विकारी भावों की उत्पत्ति हिंसा है और उन भावों का उत्पन्न नहीं होना ही अहिंसा है। राइज ऑफ अटैचमेंट, aversion and delusion is violence, and their elimination is non-violence. Their elimination means it is not being manifested. That is what we mean by elimination. As such, he emphatically declares that telling lies, theft, indulging in sensual joys, and accumulation of wealth and belongings, since they arise out of attachment, aversions, and delusions, are all violence. So these are the different forms of violence: attachment, then aversions, then delusion, then lies, theft, telling lies, theft, indulging in sensual joys, and accumulation of wealth and belongings. So these are all forms of violence. Telling lies and theft, etc. So by telling lies and theft, they mean the 5 sins. So in the 5 sins, hinsa, jhoot, chori, kushil, and parigra. So hinsa is violence, jhoot is telling lies, then hinsa, jhoot, chori. Chori is theft. Then we have hinsa, jhoot, chori, kushil. Kushil is what? 1 minute. I think kushil is infidelity, and then the last one is parigra. Parigra is possessions, accumulation of wealth. So these are different forms of violence only. All these involve violence. So to make it simple for the students, these different names are given, but one thing common across all is the violence. Telling lies and thefts, etc. So etc. means all those 5 are all violence because they destroy the pure feelings of the soul. So they don't allow to manifest pure feelings. Their division is meant only to give knowledge about them to the students. So these are different various forms given of violence just for the knowledge of the students. Those who conduct themselves according to the tenets of religion do not commit violence merely on account of causing pain to others, since they are not actuated by feelings of attachment and aversions, and those who are careless about the tenets are guilty of violence, irrespective of the fact whether living creatures die or not. Because they indulge in different passions and thus kill their souls. They are great sinners since they are self-killers. So, a person who is just looking here and there and going, 1 minute. So a person who is looking here and there and not looking at the path, and he just simply walks through and he does not kill any insects, small insects or any other insects only, we can say, small one, 2 sensed, 3 sensed, these kind of insects. But still, he is going to bound karma, inauspicious karma, for not applying due diligence while walking. You should see if there are any creatures lying on the road, and since he was looking here and there, so he didn't took care of saving the life of those. So in spite of not indulging in any kind of violence, still he is binding the karma, inauspicious karma. And there was a monk who was walking in the same path, but he was looking down, he was looking on the ground only, and he was taking utmost care, due diligence, that not a single even small kind of insects is being killed by him. So, but he's not binding any karma. Why? Because his understanding is that we should save the insects, because if he's killed by through our activity, then we are binding inauspicious karma. So the binding of the karma is not dependent on whether the other creatures are being killed or not, but it depends on what is your thinking like. आपका अभिप्राय क्या है ना? It all depends on your understanding. So the monk has a abhipray. They are followers of Mahavrat. Mahavrat means they don't commit any kind of sins in their life. And householder is Anuvrat. Householders takes the vows of a Anuvrat. That means they are involved in partial violence of some form or the other. So this is the difference between a monk and a householder. So householder bounds this inauspicious karma, but monk does not bound inauspicious karma, because they don't indulge in sinful activities. They are devoid of all kinds of sinful activities. So we can just relate to a Pratmanyug story of Pandavas. So the 5 brothers were there, and they were meditating on. So after the Dwarka was burnt, the whole town was burnt, and nobody survived except Krishna and Balram or something like that. So only 2 people survived, rest all got killed. So these 5 Pandavas were meditating in a jungle, and one of the descendants of Duryodhan was just passing from there, and they saw these 5 brothers in the state of meditation. So he wanted to take revenge. So he came down and he put hot jewelries on them. So out of 5 monks of Pandava brothers, 3 just remained engrossed in themselves, and they achieved omniscience. They achieved omniscience, they become omniscient. And the other 2, the smaller 2 the younger 2 ones, they thought ki what would happen to our elder brothers. So they had this mild attachment, rise of mild attachment in them. And because of that, they bounded auspicious karma, and they had to take birth in celestial being for a period of 33 Sagaropam, which is a very long period. So just a mild passion rising in them, that also about their concerning about their elder brother, and because of that they bound those auspicious karma, and they had to take birth in a celestial being for such a long period. So this shows that any kind of violence, whether it is mild or intense, whether it is auspicious sentiments or inauspicious sentiment, all are violence only, and they bound karma. And when that karma comes into fruition, we have to face them or suffer them, or it may produce a feeling of misery in ourselves. So these are all kind of violence only, whether you have a feeling of saving somebody or killing somebody. Both are case of violence only. One is mild violence, other one is intense violence, but it is violence in both the cases. And because of that, we are not able to manifest pure sentiments in ourselves. So this is the main loss. Yeah, so this was the example. Even if you are not committing any violence, but because of your thought process and the thinking that you have, or the understanding that you have, you, even if you are not killing anybody physically, still you are binding karmas. And in the other case, that of the monk, they are actually a butterfly or some insect might come while they are walking, but still there no karma is bound to them, because they were taking proper care and due diligence, and they were always at the back of the mind, they were always thinking not to harm anybody. Critics can say that when violence is not related to the killing or non-killing others, why should we try to keep away from deeds of violence? We should only keep our feelings pure. So this was the question. And then the Acharya replies It is true that other beings and objects are not causes of violence. Still then, for the purity of our feelings, we should not indulge in accumulation of wealth and other sins that are occasioned by violence. So it is written in Hindi. It is verse number 49. हालांकि पर वस्तु के कारण रंच मात्र भी हिंसा नहीं होती है, फिर भी परिणामों की शुद्धि के लिए हिंसा के स्थान परिग्रह आदि को छोड़ देना चाहिए. It is truth that external violence, that is to torture or cause pain to others, is not violence. But to save us from the feelings of violence, we should renounce this kind of violence and other activities like telling lies, hinsa, jhoot, chori, theft, indulging in theft, and then parigrah and kushil. So parigrah is possessions, and kushil is infidelity. So if we want to avoid this kind of feelings, then the object which are directly connected with this kind of sentiments should also be avoided. It is not true that external violence, that is to torture or cause pain to others, is not violence. That doesn't mean that torturing or killing or causing pain to others is not violence. It is violence, of course. It is violence since it is due to recklessness of our being. Recklessness is what? Pramad, laparwahi. So, ayatnachar. So these are all the cause of the violence. We do not pay attention to the mental violence or psychic violence that is committed in the inner self, and regard physical harm alone as violence. So this is the wrong belief, that we believe only the physical violence is the correct violence, but the sentiments that are being produced in us, that is also violence that we are not aware. Here our attention has been drawn to the psychic violence that is caused by passions like attachments, aversions, and other kind of passions. Those who do not renounce even external violence cannot understand psychic violence. So those who are indulging in external violence, they are not able to understand this psychic violence. It is therefore very necessary for mental purity that we should renounce uneatables, those commodities which we are not supposed to eat, that we had studied in Balbodh Abaksh. So there were 8 things, Art Mulgun, eating, use of wine, meat and honey, and that 5 kinds of fruits, Udambar, 5 types of fruits, which contain moving living creatures in them. So we should renounce uneatables, and we should also renounce eating during night time, because after the sun sets, uh, there are innumerable small insects taking birth on its own, and if we consume food in the night, then we are indulging in those inauspicious activities. Because their consumption means the slaughter of countless moving living creatures and rise of cruelty in our feelings. So if we indulge in this kind of activity, then the feeling of cruelty is manifested in ourselves, and we bound inauspicious karma, and when those karmas comes into fruition, we suffer from all kinds of miseries. Persons of non-violent conduct having soft passions means mild passions, do not indulge in such irresponsible activities. So what is this irresponsible activities? That eating the uneatables, eating during night time. So these are all wrongful activities or irresponsible activities. Violence is of two kinds: material violence or the physical violence, and the other one is psychic violence. So material violence is dravya hinsa, and psychic violence is bhav hinsa. So yesterday also we were studying about 7 addictions, and there also we had dravya vyasan and bhav vyasan. And today also dravya hinsa and bhav hinsa. So this violence is of two kinds. What would be a major difference between this material violence and this psychic violence? So psychic violence is called internal violence or bhavinsa, and material violence is called external violence or dravya hinsa. So the first column is of bhavinsa, and then the next column is of dravya hinsa. So what is bhavinsa? The rise of attachments, aversions, and delusions in the soul is internal violence or bhavinsa. Harming other beings, inflicting injury through thought, words, or deeds is external violence. The main reason behind bondage of karma is this bhavinsa. It does not lead, under the external violence, it is written, it does not lead to karma bondage directly, but indicates the impure sentiments of the soul. It is included in influx, asrav, and bondage bandh elements, and is the main cause of all miseries, this internal violence. And for external violence, it is included in the non-soul, ajiv element, non-soul element, and as such, not a cause of miseries. But since it is visible to the society, it is condemned and often punished by the law. In the absence of any external violence, internal violence leads to bondage of karma, and the soul has to bear its fruit. In the absence of internal violence, external violence does not bind any karmas, and hence such violence does not bear any fruit. So these are some of the differences between physical violence or material violence and the psychic violence or the internal violence Dravya Hinsa and Bhav Hinsa. We easily understand that material violence is killing or torturing living beings. And psychic violence is the desire or mental preparation to commit such violence. So this psychic violence uh, is happening inside in the soul, and this physical violence is happening outside the soul. So that's why it is called external violence, and this one is called internal violence. But we do not understand that intention to save the life of others is also not real non-violence, because that is also attachment. So we understand that killing is a violence, killing to others, inflicting injury to others is a form of violence. But saving somebody is also a violence that is not there in any other religions, and that is only is written in Jainism. So that's why where all the other religions stops, Jainism begins. So all other religions preaches of having compassion to other beings and saving their life and providing them food and all. So these are all auspicious activities, of course, but they believe this to be as religion. But Jainism believes that this is again a violence. So you can make out the difference between Jainism and the other religions. So the climax of the other religion is the beginning point of Jainism. So why this is again a violence? Saving somebody is again a violence because it is also a kind of attachment. In fact, the emergence of attachment of whatever kind in the mind is violence because it leads to bondage. When Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev included feelings of attachment in violence, it is not possible that he did not have an idea of their connotation. That is, he did not have an idea of the meaning of this violence because it includes auspicious and inauspicious attachments both. So Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev gave this definition that any activity causing violence is hinsa, or is called violence. Any activity of killing somebody or torturing somebody or harassing somebody is again an external violence, and even auspicious activities are also a kind of violence. So this is the broad meaning of attachments. So these attachments includes auspicious attachments also and inauspicious attachments also. So it includes both. Acharya Amrit Chandra Dev has given a true and the best definition of non-violence. All attachments, etc., of whatever nature are violence. All attachments, etc., means all attachments and aversions and delusions of whatever nature are violence. If they have somewhere been described as non-violence, that is conventional exposition of facts. So if at any point, if it is shown as non-violence, then we should understand that it is only a conventional point of view and not the real point of view. Critics can say that such non-violence can only be followed by the monks, and such it concerns them alone. Feeling of kindness in saving the lives of others is real non-violence of the householder. So, the critics or the students of the Acharya, they were saying that this kind of non-violence can be followed by only monks. A householder cannot follow this kind of non-violence. But a householder has this compassion of saving others' life and also shows kindness to other souls, then it is real non-violence of the householder. So it is also considered as violence of the householder. It is not non-violence. Acharya Amrit Chandra has taken up this matter and established that non-violence is not of two kinds. So non-violence is not of two kinds. There can be two stages of imbibing non-violence in life. So non-violence is not of two kinds, but there are two stages of imbibing non-violence in life. But violence shall always remain violence. If the householder cannot abjure or cannot renounce violence altogether, he may abjure part thereof. So he can have partial renunciation of violence. So monk has renounced all kinds of violence. He is not involved in any sinful activities, but a householder is involved in partial violence. So it is better, if we cannot abjure violence completely, we should abstain from partial violence. We should not involve in we should try to minimize violence as much as we can. If we are able to leave it completely, it is good, it is well. But as a householder, we have certain responsibilities like cooking food. So while you cook food, fire is lit, and there is, of course, violence. So these kind of things a householder cannot avoid, but those which can be avoided should be avoided by a householder also. If we cannot do even that, we should at least abstain from regarding and calling violence as something religious. So if you are not able to renounce those kind of activities, but we should at least abstain from regarding those activities as something religious.
Sir, can I ask a doubt? So, lot of people આપણે કે જીવ છોડાવે animals નો. So violence, of course it is not violent. મતલબ એ કેવી રીતે એ મનથી કરે, એ કર્મ થાય, maybe not religious, પણ આપણને ઘણા રિલિજિયસ લીડર, જૈન લીડર પણ આપણે કે તમે જીવ છોડાવો, So A is that violence or non-violence when a religious leader with Jain monk aparne ke, so should they say, should they not say, and is that violence, non-violence, religious, non-religious?
Leave alone these big animals, but even a small insect like a small ant, that also we should not indulge in any kind of violence to them also. So that as a Jain we do not do it, but to believe by saving those animals from, say, um, saving those animals from
Somebody else killing them.
yeah, from the abattoir, bringing those cows from the abattoir,
Slaughterhouse.
and
From
they
the slaughterhouse.
and they, yeah, from the slaughterhouse, and they then take those bullocks and cows uh, to remote villages, and they keep it there. Especially they spend money after that to keep them alive. So that is a kind of auspicious activity, but it is not religion. But these people believe those activities as religion,
So that is what I'm.
where the delusion comes into picture. So it is a myth. It is a delusion that you are doing religion by giving water to, say, this cows, crows, and other birds and all. So many people do those activities also, but these are all auspicious activities only. If you consider them as religion, then this is a wrong understanding. So we should abstain from regarding and calling violence as something religious. So this kind of activity is actually violence, but we consider as religious, so that should be stopped. So we should have a correct understanding of what is violence and what is non-violence. And even if we are not able to renounce those violent activity, but at least we should understand it properly. And the whole Charnan Yoga, I will explain you in one line, that whatever is possible, you do it. Whatever is not possible, you try to plan it out. And if others are doing it, then you can always applaud. So Krut, Karit, and Anumodna all have equal fruition, So if we are not able to do it, then at least we should plan out how we can avoid those kind of violence. And if we are not able to even do that, then we can always applaud what others are doing. If somebody is doing it, then we should also applaud. So this is the whole Charnan Yoga in one line. So different people have different kind of abilities, and different kind of attitude, different kind of efforts, different level of efforts. So what may be a violence for us, what may be a violence for us may not be a violence for others. So it all depends on different individuals, and each one should take care of itself. So if we are not able to renounce this violence completely, we should renounce partially. Auspicious activities, because they are attachments, are included in violence, and it is not correct to treat them as religion. So saving those animals from the slaughterhouse is an activity of attachment. And since it is attachment, it is violence, and to treat them as religion is delusion. Now, moving on to our time is over and still we are left with 2 paragraphs. So this we will take up next week. And after completing these 2 paragraphs, we will discuss those, the homework that I have given to you, an example on 4 expositions. So one example and citing that example from 4 point of view: Pratman Yog, Charnan Yog, Karnan Yog, and Dravyan Yog. So if you have done it very nicely, and I am just waiting for others also to attempt. At least if you attempt it, then you will have more idea about it. And then whenever you face any adverse situation in your day-to-day life, you can apply those 4 anuyogs or 4 expositions, and you can get the best of decision. So since this is the first time that we are studying these 4 expositions, and then we will of course be studying in quite detail in Moksha Marg Prakashak 8th chapter. This is full of 4 anuyogs only, and there we will study in detail. But now also I would like you start applying it in your day-to-day life, so you start enjoying it. So everyone should do that homework, and if anyone is not able to do it, they can always call me up and understand it once again, and then they can do it. So any questions? Okay. निज निधि निज में बताई, यह अनंत उपकार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना 7 बार है, उसके लिए जिन वाणी माँ को वंदना 7 बार है। 9 बार नौकार मंत्र की नहीं। जय जिनेन्द्र।